Welcome everybody. So tonight we're going to go through introduction of version control and Git. So we're going to look at what is Git, what is version control, and type of version control tools that we have, and why do you really need Git. And also we also going to look at Git in operation and those Git commands and how to use them. So it's going to be a bit interactive. So there'll be a lot of questions that I'll be asking. And at the point, I would also ask for a volunteer to share their screen so that even though I go through this in time of slides, so we still need someone to go through it also and to be able to share their screen so that everybody is able to carry along and we are able to see the Git in operation. So we're going to go ahead. So if you have any question, you can just type it. Then I would be looking at the screen as I go ahead. So, okay. All right, cool. All right, so this is from Blue Sky Citadel. So, and we go, this is myself, the Gunlaja. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn or you want to know where I am. Yeah, okay, version control. What exactly is version control? So version control is a system that records changes, maybe changes in a file that you created or changes in different file or even over time actually, or set of files. So it actually records the changes. And it helps you to manage the changes. Even if you take it back, let us not talk about code right now. Let's talk about a normal system actually. So you have an application. When you are using version control, you are going to be using it to track or record changes in a particular file. One good example is some of us will have, let me show you quickly what you will have done before. Let's say I have a text file. I have a notepad, right? Then I record this notepad. Let's say this is my first version of the notepad test, and I save it. This is what you will have done in one way or the other. So let me go to Sky. So let's say I save this as so yeah. So in a normal scenario, you will write this. Maybe after many days, you decide to say, okay, I'm not going to I've updated this particular file. You will do something, save as well, right? You will save it with a different name and you call it maybe version 1.0, or maybe you saw those other guys, you just put 1. So then you go again, you said, okay, another update. So what you would do sometimes again, you save it again and you call it maybe 2. If you are also smarter, you can say version 2 or something like that. So basically what you are trying to do is you are trying to do version control of your documents so that once you make some mistakes on one, you can go back to the previous version rather than saving over it. So manually, you are doing a version control of your documents so that all these documents are saved in your location or in that particular destination. In this case, we'll be talking about repository when you're talking about version control or Git. Okay, let's continue. So that now you will be using a tool which is called version control software to keep track of the modification in that particular document, or if it's a code, in a very good way, basically in a special way. So, and sometimes this particular version control system is also called source code management tool, actually, or revision control system. So, and I think this is my understanding, the most popular one, right, it's Git. So it's Git. So that's why we're going to look at this right now, that there are other tools that you can use for VCS actually, but the most popular one widely used right now is Git. So we're going to look at Git as one of the VCS tools that we have. So why do you need to do version control? I've mentioned this one. One of them is like if you are writing a book or even a paragraph, you don't want to overwrite what you've written before. You want to save the track of that history. So you would version control them in your own way, basically. Or you are reviewing a code. If you bring it all into development now, at every given time, you want to see what you've written before against what you are now writing right now. You will version control them, or you've made some changes, updates, and everything. So, and you want to bring that back. So, and also you want to log those changes. You want to have history of those incremental changes and updates that you have. You would need a version control too. As well, if you want to collaborate between two people or different people, you are working on in a particular file, you will also be using version control as well. So, and also, if you take it back now, let's bring it into development team right now. So if a mistake is made as a developer, you want to roll back. You want to go back to where you know that your code works, or as a automation tester, you've had a good moment, your code was working, then someone actually distracted you, or then your code is not working. You've tried all your best to fix it, but you couldn't fix it. You want to say, okay, I'd rather just go to previous version that was working. So you would do that using a version control tool, basically. So yeah, we would just give a minute to, because I saw this particular video, which I think is really, really good. So I would, 1 minute, I would unshare my screen, and so I will share again so that we'll be able to see, listen to the audio.
What is a version control system? A version control system, or VCS, is a system that allows you to manage multiple revisions of the same unit of information. For example, of documents, of source files, or any other item of that sort. And as the graphical depiction shows, a VCS allows multiple actors, here we have 4, to cooperate and share files. Now let's drill into these concepts in a little more detail. And let's do that by discussing why is VCS useful, especially in the context of software engineering and of software development. So first of all, using a version control system enforces discipline because it manages the process by which the control of items passes from one person to another. Another important aspect of VCS is that it allows you for archiving versions. So you can store subsequent versions of source control items into a VCS. And not only you can store versions, you can also maintain a lot of interesting and important historical information about these versions. For example, a VCL will store information such as who is the author for the specific version stored in the system, or for another example, on what day and at what time that version was stored, and a lot of other interesting information about the specific version of the item, information that you can then retrieve and, for example, use to compare versions. Obviously, the fact of having a central repository in which all these items are stored enables collaboration, so people can more easily share data, share files, share documents through the use of VCS. And I'm sure that you all had the experience of deleting a file by mistake, or modifying a file in the wrong way, or in the most common case of changing something in your code, for instance, and breaking something and not being able to go back to a version that was working. Not remembering, for example, what is that you changed that broke the code. In all these cases, a version control system can be extremely useful because it will allow you to recover from these accidental deletions or edits. And for example, to go back of yesterday's version that was working perfectly. And also to compare, for example, yesterday's version with today's version and see what is that you changed. Finally, a version control system will normally also allow you to conserve and save disk space on both the source control client and on the server. Why? Well, for instance, because it's centralizing the management of versions. So instead of having many copies spread around, you will have only one central point where these copies are stored, or a few points where these copies are stored. In addition, a version control system often uses efficient algorithms to store these changes, and therefore it can keep many versions without taking up too much space.
All right, thank you for that. So I'll go back to my slides. So we are going to see a good example of version control. So I would send this particular link to everyone. So you go in there. So if you can click on that link. So while I click on the other one. Okay, so for some of us, I think this will look familiar to you. Right, cool. As you can see, you got a lot of people logging in right now. And you are free to say hello and type your name. That's all right. Okay, can everybody stop now? I've been able to establish what I wanted to establish. Okay, all right. Okay, so now as you guys have seen, I've shared this particular document and it's read time. But what you are actually seeing, even though it is kind of you are able to type, but you can see that you are able to overwrite what everybody is doing. There's a conflict in there, basically. So, and one thing you can see that other people are able to overwrite what you've written. So, and this is one way of doing version control, but this is not the best way actually, right? So now let's assume now I kind of ask, okay, everyone not to type, and I finish my own code and I send it to you. You'll be able to see my changes, and then you can put yours in there. So as one of the version control. Now, if I come here, I can now say, okay, yeah, even though all of you have written what else, you can see how this has evolved. This is what we have before, and this is what we now have right now. I can move back to a previous version and say, this is what I want now, or when it just started without having anything. So, or continue from there and make some changes again. So that's what you can see one example of how you would do your version control. So any question on this before we move ahead? Any question? Okay. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, cool. So like I said, if you cannot type, I would advise you to log out and log in through a different medium, like maybe log in through the browser, and you should log in as a guest and you should be able to type and comment on it. Okay. So now let's talk about the next one, Git, right? Which is what most of us are here for. So what is Git? Why do we use it? Okay. So what exactly is Git? Git is a distributed version control system. It is free, so and also as well it's open source, and it's developed by the guy that also developed Linux operating system. His name is Linus Torvalds. So, and okay, yeah. So like I said before, it's kind of very popular, widely used version control system. So that's why we are actually looking at it this evening. So, and question is that what exactly is distributed version control system? So because it is distributed, it allows you to have a code base that can be mirrored on everyone's computer. So you have your repository, and every other people that you are working with can actually share that repository, and it can allow you to track the changes on different computers actually. So you could also have branches, you could merge them together automatically and quickly as well. So allows your developer to work offline. Then after that, when they come online, they can now bring their work together and they can merge it. So yeah, so that is that. So how does it work? In a simple term, basically, what you just need to do is like one, there will be a repository to be created. You can use different tools that, whether you want to use GitHub, Bitbucket, Azure DevOps, and the likes actually. So it's okay. So for this particular training, I'm going to focus on GitHub. But for those guys that would go into the internship that we do, you have exposure into Azure DevOps, and we might as well look into whether to get Bitbucket. But for tonight, it's going to be GitHub that we are going to look into. So, and then also after you've created your repository or someone created a repository for your project, you can clone, or what another word for that is copy. But most often, it's the right word is clone, basically. But when you are cloning, you are only copying that particular repository. Repository in literal term actually means a location, a folder where your code or your file is stored. So you can clone it into your local machine. Then also you can add files to your local repo, and you can commit. Commit means that you save your changes. Basically, when you say commit, basically you are kind of saving it, even though it's dynamically saved anyway. So, but you save it, then after you saved, you can push. Either you push to local branch, or you push to your master branch. Then you can now make those changes and push it to your remote repository, or you can pull changes from your remote repository into your local machine. So these are standard things that you're going to be doing when you are working with Git. Basically, create your repo, clone it, add the file or add folders, commit it, push, then make changes to the files again, and commit, then pull what you have on your remote, and on like that. So basically, if you're able to get this simple logic, I think you should be fine. So okay, so those are the major operations that you would be using Git for. Okay, all right. So then, yeah, now branching actually. So it's also possible that for you to work effectively with other people in your team, you might want to keep your stuff local to yourself. You want to be able to say, I don't want anyone to change or to tamper with what I've got, right? And you want to only let it be visible for others when you are ready. So you will create a branch, right? Your branch is only the people that got access to your branch that can see what you're doing. Once you finish that particular work and you commit your changes, you can now do a pull request, yeah, which is like a proposal to say, I'm done with my branch. I want to now merge it with what I've got on the master branch. So then once you now merge it with the master branch, it's not available for anyone that got access to the master branch. We're going to look at this also. So that it's basically like in a nutshell what Git is about. Let me see if I've got any question. Okay, all right, good, thanks. Okay. So any question? Okay. All right, cool. So now, how do you install Git? So I'm not going to, I'm just going to go through installation on Git on Mac. I don't, because this particular computer that I'm using right now is not Mac, but I will go through how you can install it on Mac, but I will go through how you can also install it on Windows with all the steps. So I'm expecting us to go into like a workshop with someone that want to volunteer to go through the process with me, basically, so that we can be able to see it in operation if I have any volunteer. So for you to install on Mac, you go this particular process. So the first thing that you want to establish first is like to see if you already got Git installed on your system. So the first thing that you do, you just type, or you go to your terminal and you type git version. You just open your terminal and type git version. So if you type that, and you should be able to see the version of Git that you have on your system. So if you don't see any, or if you say Git is not recognized, that means you don't have Git installed. So what do? So to install Git, you can go to this particular URL. So I will just go to screen now and send that to everyone. So if you go to task, if that is if you are using Mac. So if you're using Mac, then you should go through and follow the step to install it. So, but one thing I want to say is like, for me, the easiest way to install it on Mac is to install it through Homebrew. So for people that are using Mac, I know this should not be new to you, so you can install it using Homebrew. So what you just need to type is brew install git, and that should do the magic for you if you already have Homebrew installed on your Mac. So now let's go to the most popular one, I would say, Windows. So what do you need to do? So you just need to go to this particular URL to download Git. I'll send this link as well. Or you just Google. That's another thing that you could do, but I'm going to send it anyway. So yeah, if you are using Windows, you can okay. Yeah. So if you are using Windows, can you please click on that link? Yeah. So if you need to talk, please, can you use the chat, please? That would be good. Thank you. Okay. So if you are on Windows users, so you should just go to that link and then just follow the step. I'm going to go through the step with you. So what you're going to see is, yeah, when you go to that, this is what you're going to see. So you click on download. So you would then click on next to agree to the license. Then you specify where you want to install your Git. So, but advise just put use the default location and then click on next. So then after that, this is also the default setting. So I just advise you to leave it as that. So for the selected component, then you click on next as well. So then you choose your default, you make sure Git is not your default editor. So that also is recommended, and just click on next as well. So then adjusting your path environment. This will still go into this when we start to do Java installation. For those guys that have done Java installation, this should not look new to you, should not be new to you. So, but Git allows you to adjust your path environment automatically. So it's recommended that you do that as well. So you can select, I think this is default, Git from command line, and also third party is selected by default and it's recommended. You can leave that and click on next. So as well, when using HTTP transportation backend, also you allow you to use Open SSL library and you click on next as well. So, and this one also, it's basically next as well. So use tin TTY as well and select default behavior of pool, so that it's what you need to do. And as well, Git credentials manager selected as well and click on next. So check on file system caching, then click on next as well. Then this one, you just, of course, if you want to send your experimental support for that, you can fill up, or I think it's okay to just start installation by clicking on install. Okay, so when you start that, you have the installation box, then you can as well launch Git bash. So, and you click on next and you should see something like that basically. So, and so then you can now, so let's say, so let's say you just need to say Git version, that you say dash version, or even it's as well as simple as just a Git version, just to give you the version that is installed. So that shows that you've got Git installed. So okay, so quickly, can I have a show of hands? Yes, if you've been able to do this quickly before we go ahead, or if you have any question, you can type your question. So someone asks, what version of should we click on? I think, so as you can see, so I'm not still loading. Okay. So if you are here by today at the time we're doing this, we have 2.28 basically. If you go to this set, you don't even need to worry about the version. You just need to click on download. That should get that for you. Someone was asking which version. So you would, when you go to their site, you will see that. So if I quickly do that right now. So you just need to click on download basically, and that should download the version for you, because I've already got it downloaded. So, and so that's it. You just need to continue from there, clicking next and next and next. So, and that should get that done for you. Okay. Can I have a show of hands if you've been able to install Git or not? So as you can see, it's basically just next. It's so simple. You don't need to do anything, to be honest. So, and that's it. So because I've got it, so, and I'll just close. So you need to, I'm gonna go through it again. So I think you need the git bash as well. So from here, right, the location. So you need the git bash as well, git bash and git, GUI. Yeah. So this is very, very important. So like I said, all these are set for you by default. So what you just need to do is basically nest. All these are kind of by default, nest. Yeah, everything is basically nest. So there are default settings for you. So, and then that should take you to this point. Okay. So has anyone been able to install Git? Okay. So is anyone finding it difficult or there's an issue? So I'm getting a message, developer not recognized. I'm not sure about that, to be honest. So what that is. So if you're using Mac, I would say I've said the Mac, don't use Windows application on Mac. That's yeah. So you should not use Windows application on Mac. So so has anyone got any window application that we can actually share their screen and see if you want to go through the process? Okay, for those guys that are using Mac, I would advise you to use Homebrew actually. So that is straightforward. Install Homebrew on your Mac, and yeah, it's just one command, and that does that for you. It's kind of easier and faster for you. Okay. So for those guys that are using Mac, I've said use Homebrew for your installation. That should get you there actually. Okay. So for the Homebrew, I would quickly go back. What you need to type if you already have Homebrew. Yeah, you just need to type brew install git, and that should get that for you. So if you want to install brew, just go to http://brew.sh and you should be able to install brew. And then on your terminal, you can just do brew install git. That should do the magic for you, basically, if you are on Mac. Okay, we have to go ahead because of the time. Okay, so now you've installed Git. Now you need, because what's going to happen, you necessarily don't need a Git client if this particular screen is comfortable with you. Basically, you like this screen, you can use this black screen every time to do whatever you want to do. For some guys, it's not okay. For maybe you are used to Windows, you want to have visibility of what you are doing, so that, or you are good with graphics, so, and you don't want to be typing command every time, but advise you to use commands, to be honest. But we're going to, for today, we would also see how you can actually install a GUI for Git, basically. So how do you install GUI for Git? So I'm going to look into that. So okay, Yeah, what are the top GUI clients for Git? So we have Git GUI, we have GitHub desktop, we have source tree and the likes actually. So the most common one I can tell you that I know, there will be other one that are not on this list anyway, but the most common one will be like source tree and maybe GitHub. Git GUI has got its own as well. So if you have installed Git thus far, there's something that you could do quickly. If you've been able to install Git properly, so you could just go to a location on your system. Let's say I am in this location now. I can create a folder. I can call this folder Git, let's say training 1 or training 2020 or 80. So if I do that, I can kind of right click and say Git GUI or Git bash here. So if I say Git bash here, you will see that blast screen that we've seen before, basically. And you can start writing, for instance, if I say Git status, because this hasn't got any Git at all, I'm expecting it to give an error because it hasn't got any repository. So, but we're going to talk about that one later. So as well, you can say Git GUI here. So that should give you a GUI location folder like that, basically. So from here, you can create new repository, you can clone a repository, you can open a repository. So for instance, now, if I want to create a new repository, I can click on that, and then the location of the repository, which is this one, I can select that particular folder. So I can say create repository. That will create a repository for me. So that is a repository. I can start making changes to that repository. So, and maybe create a file. So where's that file? I can call the file tests. I can create another file. Let's say I call this one now business requirement. And you can as well and you can change this one to maybe test script, whatever that is, as an example. So we close this one. So now if I do this now and say git bash at this particular location, as you can see, it's now got master. So if I say git status, so it's now showing me that I've got 2 files that I've not added, basically. So we're going to come back to this later. So, and to see how we can do the incremental changes using Git. So I will leave this for now. So I will go to how to install another GUI. So, but if you are going to use Git GUI as well, you can right click and say Git GUI at this location. As you can see now, it's got these 2 files that we've added, and you can commit your changes, you can add those changes basically, and so from there you just need to commit, and so but for now we'll leave this one. We go to install another GUI that we're going to use. So let me close this one as well as this one as well. Okay, go back to my slide. So now, so let's install GitHub as one of the, like I said, this is GitHub desktop is one of the leading one. Source tree, I would say source tree is the most leading one. Aside from this one, most people will not use GUI from the Git that you installed. You use Git bash in there, not the GUI that comes with that. So if you are looking for most popular ones, these three are the most popular one that you should look into. So installation of them is fairly simple and easy, so you can look at them. So for you to install Git desktop, you just need to first go to github.com. One thing I want to say, right, this is very, very important. So for those guys that are going to go into our internship program that we do, so you are going to be using GitHub as well as Azure DevOps. We use Azure DevOps internally, but for externally projects, you will be using GitHub because we advise everyone to have their code repository on GitHub, which is very, very important. So for instance, if you are going to go for interviews, you can showcase what you've done even in this particular program to them, and you can even put it on your CV to for a recruiter to see that, oh, I've done a code before and I know how to do it, basically. So this is very, very important for you to get that to get the Git set up, and also for you to know how to push code into your Git repository. So that's why normally when I normally take this particular course, I do this later in the end or during the internship. And I thought that, yeah, I will start doing this earlier so that even when I give you assignments or any code before we start, so you are going to be pushing everything into your Git repository. This is very, very important. So going forward as a keyway on the automation course, you are going to be given an assignment and you need to be pushing it into your Git repository. So you will not be sending your code in a text form any longer. So by next week, we are going to be doing Java installation. So after that, your code should go into your Git repository. So this is very important that you know how to do this. So the first thing, you go to your register and register on GitHub. So just put your username and password. Then, so I think that should be after you've registered, then you go to desktop.github.com. So if I can send that out to everyone. So the first one that you want is github.com. The first one that you want is github.com. So then from there, okay, you need this one as well. So after you've registered on github.com, so you need to download the desktop. Okay, so that's the Git desktop. So you need to download it. So it's fairly easy to download and to install. So what you just need to do is simply click on, for Windows, you have that instruction for Mac as well. So for Windows, if you're on 64 bytes, you need to, please know, you need to be sure if you're on 64 bytes or 64-bit computer or 32-bit computer. So if you are on 64-bit or 32-bit, so you need to know which one you are working on. So you download the right version for your PC. or laptop. So once you go in there and start to install, you will see GitHub desktop, and after that it will ask you to sign in when you after yeah. So because you've already, is either you see this, or once you've already signed in, you will see something like this basically, and then you will ask it to authorize basically the desktop. So you can do that. So then after that, you would allow open GitHub desktop. Yeah. So you can now configure your Git basically. So this is going to be the name that is going to appear on your commit that you create for your project. So I think GitHub also gives you a username or an email address, but this is not your username and password if you want to register. So it just automatically creates that for you. You can click on continue. And yeah, and that's you finished. So any question? So then you can, okay, let's see. Can everyone see my screen? If you can see my screen, can you just say yes or no? Okay, cool. Because someone saying can see my screen. So okay, all right, cool. So yeah, so when you click on continue from the previous page, you should, yeah, when you click on finish from here, it should take you to this particular page. So yeah, you can create a tutorial repository. This is just for your yeah, training and everything. So it is not, it's going to be private for you. It's not going to be public anyway. So but if you want to continue, the first point to start is clone a repository. So but if you okay, I take that back, because possibly you won't have any repository to clone. You will want to create your own repository. So you start from this particular one, create a new repository on your desktop. So that's what you're going to, yeah, start with. Create a new repository on your hard disk. So if you do that, then it's going to ask you for the name, descriptions, the location of your repository, and then whether you want to ignore. So this is very, very important also, because there's some code that you will want to ignore, not to push into Git, that that particular language is you have it on the language basically. Like for instance, those code, compiler code that you don't want it to be pushed. So you need to specify the language, and then you click on create repository. Let me quickly do that also. So, and it takes you to this point. So we've been able to do that here on the previous one that we did. So, and I'm going to do it on GitHub as well, GitHub desktop now. So any question, please, you can type. So you got repository, yeah. So I've already got a repository already created for myself at here. So you can actually see this is one repository. I can start to add things inside it basically. So, or I can create a new repository now. So let me say this is now, So description, this is a so, and I want to initialize readme, so that is okay. Then I want to, so if you need to specify the language that you are using, so, and for those guys that are using C or C sharp, or and since we are going to be using Java, so I'm going to select Java as git ignore. So the license is known. I can create my repository. But before I do that, if I go to my GitHub location on the web, so I need to go to GitHub. If you just say github.com, so this is where you can log in from here. So I've already logged in as myself. So you see your repository at this site, basically. So as you can see now, the repository I created now is not yet there. So I just want you to know. So then if I say create repository, so check out for the name Blue Sky Git training. That's what we're looking for. So that is that. So, but my repository is still local to me. So because if I still go here, I won't find it until I publish my repository. So if I go back here now and I say, okay, I want my repository to be published, I can say publish repository. So it's going to ask me, okay, check, that's fine. And I can say, okay, yeah, publish. So I can say keep this code private, or I can say, oh, I don't want it private. That means it's going to be public. So I can, yeah, push it as public so you guys can as well see it at this part. So once that is done, so you would, if I refresh this one, I should see it now. So basically, if anyone go to this particular location, you should be able to see this repository that I have created. And you can clone it as well. So, okay, there's one question. How secure is GitHub for document protection? I think it's fairly secure, yeah. But of course, everything you put online, there's the element of insecurity in there. But yeah, so if you make it private, it's still a bit secure anyway. So, but you can as well even do two-way authentication, so that it's not only one way. So you can log in, use your, and even they will send a text to you to confirm your login credential, and you can put that particular code in there. So yeah, I think I would say it's fairly secure actually. So, but if you make it public, yeah, it's basically outside in the public domain. Okay. All right. So that what we've been able to do now is to create a repository now. So, and we've done that repository, we published it, and we've been able to confirm that. So now an exercise right now for the next maybe 5 minutes, we're just going to have a break for 5 minutes. So for those guys that have not been able to do that, so try to register on GitHub, open your GitHub desktop, create a repository, and check your repository in GitHub. Let me know how it goes. So we're going to take a pause and to see as many people that can do this right now. So let me see how it goes. Once you are able to do this, can you just say finish. Let's see quickly. If there's anyone also that is bold enough and want to share their screen is allowed, let me know. I can give you the permission to do that. And so let me see how many people we got that's able to set it up. This is very important for or for the internship. This is very important actually for the internship. So if you're not able to do this, I don't think you'll be allowed in the internship basically. Okay, I think I can see yours. Yeah, is here basically. Okay, that's Siri Adekoya. Okay, well done. So any more? So if you don't know what to do, I'll go through that quickly. So first, if you first thing, if you're on Windows, I would advise you install on Git. You just need to go to this particular URL, Git for Windows.org, and you can click on download Git. Once you've done that, you click on next and next and next and next. That is done for you. It just next, and then you should be able to get your Git bash opened, and you can try Git version. So then also you need to install your Git GUI client. So to install that, you just need to go to this particular location and you install that using this process. And yeah, so this is now the exercise that we're doing right now. So you need to register on GitHub if you have not done that. Open your GitHub desktop, create a repository. So to create a repository, basically, you can click, if you already started, if you are just getting started, you click on this. If not, you click on file and you should be able to see create repository. Okay, so you should see file, then create new repository, and you should put the name and then continue from there. So you should put the name and it should get you here, and then you can publish, showing if it's private or public. So that's what we need to do. Many people has been able to do that, so I've got Wale. Okay, let's see. All right, so it seems yours might be private. So because I can't see it right now, so it shows it's private, so which is okay. Well done, you. So if you want to make it public, you can. Okay, all right, cool. So yeah, we're going to continue now, if that's okay. Done. Yeah. All right. So the next one now, having completed that, so we need to know what to do in Git commands.